Good Sunday morning to you. It is September 1st. Oh my goodness, how did we get here? 2024. And today I have a project. Or maybe two. And I also have another test. I know tests are becoming tedious, but we have to run these tests when we do a new hobby. This time it's how to seal our acrylic pouring or casting compound finished pieces. And I want to show you, while we're chatting, a website where you can put all your numbers in and find out what the ratio of powder to water is, or conversely, the ratio of water to powder is, so you always get the manufacturer's recommended ratios. Neat, huh? I've been using this the whole time and forgot to tell you, so I wanted to make sure that I put it right up front, and I'll leave you a link in show notes. So now let's talk about sealing and the project. The project first. For this, we're going to try simple marbling, and I have my total weight split into two pots, and in the first, I put a alcohol ink of 10 drops, and it gives me a pale lavender, which is what I expect. And I add a total of 4 millimeters to this one because it's magic pour, and the exact ratio is not going to pour for this marbling. So 2 milliliters the first time, 2 milliliters the second time, and I still have doubts about whether this is going to be thin enough. Next, I do the same thing, same ratios, dig a hole, and I pour in an alcohol concentration of 21 drops, but it actually ends up being 31 drops because I add some. I'm not getting the color difference enough to do marbling. And I also added 5 milliliters of water to the original 21 gram weight. Now this second color is going to pour. I know it's going to pour. I remix the first color, and I get out a miniature version of an acrylic paint pouring funnel. It has little feet on it, and it rests inside the mold, as you see. And I start pouring, and I start with the light color, and I alternate back and forth. I can tell by the consistency of the lighter mix that it's going to have trouble getting through in a minute or two. I have the timer running, and you can't see it for the most part because my hand is over it. I'll make a note of that next time. But the upshot is that eventually the camera quit. Yes, I checked my battery before I hit record, and it said I had a full battery. So when I took the camera off the stand after filling this up, I will tell you that I ended up pouring the lighter color in the center because it was thickening up. And I poured the remainder of the lighter color into the darker color. It wasn't very much because it was setting up. So I poured that darker color around the outside, which you will not see on the face of the coaster when I unmold it, I turn the coaster upside down or upside right as you normally do. So unlike resin pours, where you use different additives to resin to make the color move out and then back in, this color only moves one way. And I do apologize for being out of frame. I really miss my grid mat where I know exactly where my camera frame is, and I'm at the point where I need to figure out something. Maybe something as simple as slapping some painter's tape down to make a frame. So this is a proof of concept clip, and why did I do that? Well, I have a pour that I want to do, and I needed to know if I could do this kind of marbling on a flat surface with this little acrylic pour funnel? And the answer is yes, I can, but probably not with Magic Pour because it's too thick. I'll probably have to do the project with Resincrete, which is fine. At least I know which one to use. However, I don't have nearly as much Resincrete left as I do Magic Pour, and I really wanted to give Magic Pour a fighting chance to prove to me that I can use it for larger things than inclusions and jewelry pieces and coasters. Nevertheless, now I know. You can see some of the faults in this experiment, and I'm out of frame again. So in the center is a white patch where I poured that lighter color, and it's fine, except for it left little feet marks from where the stand was sitting on the mold bottom. How do I fix that? I don't know. Maybe pouring a very thin coat of UV resin would fix it, but I don't think so because everybody that I've watched use both resin and acrylic pouring compounds has said do the resin second. So I have my doubts about that fixing the problem. Maybe using a larger pouring funnel with close to the total volume of what that coaster holds would have worked better in that it might not have clogged or started to clog because of the drying starting to set up. I don't know, but it does work. It gave a very subtle marbling, and had I super concentrated that purple, I would have gotten a more contrasty type marbling. Not to worry, there might be a way to fix it, and we're going to do that at the end to see if maybe alcohol inks are the way to go, even though you're using a ton of product to get good contrast. If you've been reading the notes, it's no secret by now that the project is a box. And I've been building up to this project now by doing all this testing because I didn't want to waste a couple 100 grams of product on something I didn't really understand how it worked. We're using Resincrete, as you can see. Acrylic paint did not it did not incorporate well, and I should have let it sit in the water, split my water and put the acrylic paint in and let it sit and let it hydrate. I lost my mind for a minute and didn't do that. I blame it on the unrelenting heat, high humidity, and tornado warnings we had a couple of days ago that we're still getting the after effects of. Nevertheless, I soldier on, and even though my acrylic paint is not incorporating the way I wanted it to, it doesn't matter to me because number one, it will give some marbling streaks, maybe. Number two, it's going to sit on my desk and hold all the stuff that is piling on my desk. So it's, one of a stack. And each time I make one of these, it'll mean that I have someplace to put all the stuff. So I then discovered after I poured this next layer that I had not made enough. Now, because I did not let my old acrylic paint rehydrate in the water before pouring it into the powder, I got some blobs like chocolate in ice cream. I don't know whether I got bubbles or not. I don't think so, but if I did, okay. Looking at this box sitting on my desk, one of a stack, will remind me what not to do. So I'm totally fine with it. I can tell you that since I've been editing, it's about 45 minutes later, and I can feel that the bottom of the mold, meaning the part that is sitting on the desk is still a little bit warm. I would say it's probably maybe 80 degrees. And I just noticed, incidentally, I just noticed that my air conditioner went on with my windows wide open. Hence the heat and humidity comment previously. But let's not get sidetracked. I do my best to empty this mold. I tap it, I do a little poking, and then when I'm ready to leave it sit to cure, well, to dry, not to cure, I reset the timer to count up. So how many minutes is it taking? At 61 minutes, I decided that, it was safe to try and see if it was set. And you can see I just pointed out some of uncured burnt umber paint, which is, again, it's fine. I did get a couple of little bubbles. So I'll have to just let this sit overnight and let the acrylic paint, um, skin over and cure itself. The clock said 64 and some change because I had already cleaned up my desk and all that jazz and was ready to turn the camera on. So, but none of this is disappointing or upsetting to me the way, I was kind of disappointed and grumpy about our tests in previous two videos. I knew what to expect. I kind of knew what could go wrong. I used Resincrete to give myself the best advantage of this project being an initial pour of larger quantity. I feel like it's a success, but wait, there's more. We need to correct any mistakes we can, like trim the bottom and do something about our big splotches, maybe, maybe not, and then we need to seal it. One thing that most crafters, artisans, and makers know is that whenever you're doing a new project, it's a prudent idea to go digging around in your stash of stuff, even for completely unrelated crafts or art pursuits, and see if you've got something already to further your project. In this case, it's finishing products, and I have 4 of them up there. The first one is Mod Podge, and I'm going to tell you, while all of these work, I am definitely not going to use Mod Podge. I don't like the fact that often, once it's dried and cured, it's still sticky. And so when you pick it up, you're always, you can feel that stickiness and it attracts dust. So no Mod Podge for me. The yellow bottle or amber bottle in the middle is a beeswax compound. It's beeswax and carnauba, and it is lovely, luscious stuff. That's why I have the big bottle. However, it will tint whatever you are putting it on with a slight yellow cast. So I might not use that, even though I have warm tone browns. We'll see. Next, on the bottom, the big can is Bry Wax. I've used it for years and I love it. However, even though it dries hard and clear, it has a chemical smell. So I probably won't use that. On the top, in the smaller silver can, is walnut oil and carnauba wax. And it has, I can tell you already because I opened it, a lovely walnut smell. It resists going rancid and it dries hard and clear. It's food safe. I don't think I'm going to be eating out of this dish. It's for storage. Remember these experiments we did in swirling and how it wasn't all that contrasty and so forth? We already know that if you add a sealer, it's going to enhance the color. So I did some tests off camera, and since we're bumping almost 15 minutes now, I'm just going to show you a still shot and tell you what happened. We have a white tester. These were done in Magic Pour earlier in the video. We also have our marbling or swirling experiment, and we have 2 extras so that we can show a piece that is just one finish. Going from left to right on both tiles, Mod Podge, yes, I took one for the team, and there's really no appreciable change, although you can see brush strokes if you used a brush. Next to that is the beeswax, and that stuff, uh, the yellowing is so slight on the white that you almost can't tell. So it's a good alternative. It does have some kind of petroleum product in it, a little bit. I could not find on the label what the percentage was, but it does have a slight smell. Then we have the green tape to separate the beeswax from the bry wax. Beeswax is on the left, bry wax is on the right. Bry wax did not really give much of a color change, and if you look on the um, right coaster, you can barely see a color change. Now these are still drying, but I wanted you to see them wet. And then finally, the wood and carnauba wax, it's the one that brought up the most color depth. It did add just a slight deepening of the purple slash pink. And then on the top, the left one is the beeswax and carnauba wax. The right one is the walnut and carnauba wax. Now you can say to me, well, that's all well and good, but what about our box? Well, here it is. It is still wet a little bit. I took another one for the team and used Mod Podge over my copper leaf because tack it over and over just did not hold all the leaf down, and I had to put something over it to really hold it down. Nevertheless, the finish I ended up choosing was the beeswax because it was liquidy to begin with, and I wanted a very light coat to start with. I wasn't sure that um, copper leafing was going to stay put. I also took some copper acrylic paint and ran it along the rim with my finger. You can see that it wasn't very even because it's a rounded top, but that doesn't bother me. I've considered mixing up a little bit of UV resin with some brown or ochre yellow and making a caramel drip effect to kind of disguise that. But in the end, I decided not to because I was already pushing this project as far as I thought I could push it with the copper leafing itself not being stable. I hope you learned something from this couple of tests and the projects. I can tell you that the tester tiles are now dry completely overnight. Waxing and wax oil combinations take as much as 30 days depending on which you choose to cure, so keep that in mind. God bless you, and I'll see you real soon.